What's so enticing under the island of Castora that the Inquest have moved in, and which elder Tyrian race could be connected to it? Tomorrow, Visions of Eternity arrives. A-Net has dropped some lovely new footage of the island and a sneak peek at some of the brand spanking new Eye Candy Visions Legendaries too. So let's take a look at all the teased tidbits released so far and participate in some prophetic wild speculation about the possible narrative roller coasters Visions of Eternity could take us on. And I'm putting a spoiler here in the unlikely, profoundly unlikely event that I stumble upon any story revelations herein. But first, hey, I'm Fornex. Welcome to my channel. To pull up a chair, make yourself at home, and if you find merit in my efforts here, please do push some buttons down below. A-Net has been drip feeding maps, shorts, zone fly-throughs as launch day looms. So let's start with the location. So they teased 3 maps, which were combined to reveal this. When I first saw the overlay, I thought the team were taking us back to the Battle Isles, which was a gathering PvP area with lots of NPCs related to Balthazar, but I don't think we're going to be getting any more Balthazar story. For a while, we did burst his bubble, but the Battle Isles were located roughly northwest of Cantha, so that's why I thought it was that, but it looks like we're getting an entirely new novel area. So on the speculation front, I mean, personally I find it interesting, but it's a bit of a dead end. So let's take a look at the lore posts that were teased, and I think we're going to get a lot out of these because it breaks down into stuff about Castora, the Inquest, the Elder Races, with a bit of information about the Alliance and a favourite character returning of mine. So let's dive into it. The Isle of Castora has been whispered about amongst seafarers for generations, but very few have risked the journey due to the treacherous storms and the threat of the Elder Dragons. Those who dare to set sail, well, they never made it back. This reinforces existing lore that the Unending Sea is impenetrable. However, with no Elder Dragons to contend with and our Astral Ward buddies' floating island shenanigans, our passage will likely be far less turbulent and or terminal. Unless, of course, the writers have some plans for our voyage that I am blissfully unaware of, and onto the next post, so affectionately referred to as wave hawks by the locals. So there are people living on this island. The skimmers indigenous to Castora have adapted to its magic-rich environment over the millennia. With their enhanced abilities to heal, track, and quickly traverse the shoals both above and underwater, they are an integral part of Castoran culture. So this post firmly grounds the new enhanced skimmer mastery into the world lore. They did the same with the Warclaw in Janthia Wilds, Tis Peak. And this also tells us, again, that the island is inhabited likely by survivors of all those shipwrecks that we get to see in the teasers. And the next post talks directly, specifically about these people. For some, the Inquest's arrival is an opportunity, access to supplies and weapons and technology never seen on Castora that could swing the balance of power at a price. For others, it's yet another threat to survival in a land already brimming with fierce creatures and ancient dangers. So from this, we can surmise that there is regional rivalries amongst the castaway population, likely over resources, as most conflicts tend to be, giving the writers a chance to pen a civil war campaign, perhaps, with a side order of imperial expansionist land and resource theft. The Inquest is not the only threat to the locals alluded to by the Ancient Dangers line, which is expanded on in our next post. So, the Elder Races of Tyria were once the most powerful people in the known world, aside from the Elder Dragons. They went to great lengths to protect their power from the Elder Dragons. Who are the Elder Races then? So, the known ones for us are the Dwarves, the Forgotten, the Jotun, the Masat, and the Seers. TLDR, 10,000 years ago, these people banded together and formed an alliance to survive the previous dragon rising. However, that alliance shattered when the Seers betrayed the Masat. These Elder Races have not completely vanished, per se, but their societies were forever changed disastrously. So the dwarves descended into the earth, and their story continues with prophecies and onwards, even into the modern game. The Masat, well, they plane shifted away to safety. The Seers were murdered by the Masat, and are functionally extinct. The Jotun, once an advanced civilization, devolved and diminished. What fate befell the Forgotten? We're not sure. We just don't know. Echoes of their work remain. Their connection with Glint and now Aureen lingers as well. Who left what under the island then? Personally, I don't think we're going to see much more Masat's story after Janthea Wilds. We had it quite a bit then. They've had their moment, at least for the time being. The dwarves could make an appearance, and my friend Deborah would love them too, but we did get some dwarf action in Season 3 on the Fire Islands and in Secrets of the Obscure, so I don't think they're going to make an appearance. Isgarin has been kind of set up as the last seer, so technically we have been getting seer lore for 2 expansions. Personally, I would welcome some revelations and narrative momentum centered on Isgarin and his history. We've had some lore posts and some found lore in game, but nothing to really get our teeth into. So more seer shenanigans could well be on the cards, even if it's just tangentially. Jotun lore has been expanded in one of the explorable paths of Ra, and with the Bifrost Legendary, and they're an NPC race that still inhabits the Shiver Peaks. Although incredibly diminished, incredibly primitive now. We do have a main character Jotun in Dagda as well, so it's not inconceivable that the power source under the island of Castora is Jotun in nature. I wouldn't necessarily put my money on that, but it's reasonable. Last but not least is the Forgotten, who have been narratively present throughout all of Guild Wars history, but specifically they kind of came to the forefront in Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire. I don't have any knowledge of anyone ever encountering a living Forgotten, but we have interacted many times in the story with their works and artifacts through their alliance with Glint. So they are a strong contender for an unexplored elder race with huge lore consequences. However, we also find Aurian architecture in this land. So I think we're going to see something of the human gods too, some sort of involvement there. I think maybe a narrative in my head would be that the power under the island attracted their attention. There is a Melandru vibe to the island, like an echo of her realm that we saw on the Dragonfall map. Perhaps a human settlement was built around that old power, which has now fallen into ruin. Perhaps because of that power, maybe the people were changed by it. Because I think Visions of Eternity is going to explore the ideals and ideas of transhumanism, which we will talk about just a little later. On to the Tyrian Alliance. So here's the post about it. As the Tyrian Alliance slowly expands, many of its chartering nations have encouraged an exchange of culture, craft, and combat expertise, revealing old traditions or cutting-edge discoveries to heroes far and wide. So this post, I think, is just a lore veneer for the new elite specializations, but I like it, again, grounding all the game mechanics into the fabric of the game. I love that. The next post reveals that Canik will likely be our companion through our journeys through Castora. Canik has earned quite a lot of capital and has gone a bit restless in his success. He's been hanging around Lion's Arch with his former partner Sadaya the Sly, looking to spend some major coin. So success does not seem to sate Canik. He's very much for the chase. Always the new, the next bright, beautiful, dangerous thing is the most enticing, the thing that he cannot resist. And I will be happy for his company. I like the sardonic Sylvari very much. I am unconvinced that his presence means something more, something Sylvari related. I would give vital organs to see the Pale Tree return to the story and to know the fate of Malik's tree. But I don't think that this is that moment. I mean, I could be wrong. That Melandru vibe could be something quite unique. But onto the big bad Inquest and their transhumanist aspirations. However, let's just begin with the 2 character introductions that we get. So, notably lacking in charm, Seb has instead risen to power in the Inquest through a combination of ruthless ambition and the brutal effectiveness of his experiments. That sounds fairly ominous. We know about Inquest experimentation, specifically if you play through Season 2. Things they do to the Sylvari are, well, they'd be in The Hague. But getting back to Seb, he is brand spankers. There is no known history of him outside this post, so he is a brand new character, and it will be interesting to see what Aynet's going to do with this little monster. On to our next big bad, possibly not. You never know with these characters. Sometimes we get redemption arcs for baddies. This could be her, but the daughter of a former Inquest kingpin, Overseer Kuda, has taken over the remnants of her father's old crew. She has slowly risen in prominence among Inquest leadership. But who is she? Well, Overseer Kuda appears as a hologram in Season 4 of The Living World. Her concise narrative is thus, and it is threadbare, she continues her father's work with dragon minions, working to combine the multiple dragon energies into a singular being, which she succeeds in doing with the creation of Subject Beta, apparently the successor of Subject Alpha. Maybe Alpha was Daddy's creation. Could her history mean that we will see the return of Aurene, because Aurene is the ultimate conduit, the ultimate expression of all the dragon's power in one being? I'm thinking that it's unlikely. So the deeps under Castora is ancient. Our girl is fairly freshly minted. I don't think it's a hibernation chamber, at least not with the information that we have so far. Also, I think it's just too soon to bring her back. The team have just put to bed, in context, just put to bed a decades-long dragon tale. So I don't think that there will be any tearful reunions on the cards for us anytime soon. I would not think for another at least 3 or 4 years if she ever gets to come back. The next lore reveal is about the hierarchy in the Inquest, but I'm not really interested in that. I want to talk about their eternal aspirations. There are many within the Inquest who have long found organic life to be woefully insufficient. As a person who lives in an organic body, I entirely concur, deeply insufficient. Some here began working to remedy that failure. Hello, transhumanism. Oh, yes, indeed. So, if you want a deeper, more erudite guide to transhumanism, links to the wonderful channel Philosophy Tube below. They do a great video about it. But don't leave me yet. TLDR. Transhumanism is a philosophical and intellectual movement that advocates the advancement of the human condition by developing and making widely available new and future technologies that can greatly enhance longevity, cognition, and well-being. And I would hasten to add, to remind, that technologies does not exclusively mean physical things. Technology is the application of conceptual knowledge to achieve practical goals, especially ones which are reproducible. And players of Guild Wars are no stranger to the ideals of transhumanist technology, specifically transcendence. However, thus far, that transcendence has been more spiritual and magical in nature and pursuit. The Inquest seem to have taken a more practical approach, a route which we have encountered before. Yes, transhumanism is not new to Guild Wars 2. Blish was a living mind housed inside a machine body, the first transhumanist in the history of Tyria. And the introduction of this narrative thread, or should I say the reintroduction of this narrative thread, brings to mind Timey. Timey, who has a life-shortening condition. Is Visions of Eternity the expansion where we will see her transcendence? Some people think we get a glimpse of Scruffy 2.0 in one of the fly-throughs as well, so this is not beyond the bounds of reason, and I would like to see a conclusion or a continuation of her story. Let me know what you think below. However, despite all of our officious ruminations over the carefully laid breadcrumbs, thank you dev team, we really appreciate it, the biggest narrative clue and cue could well be the most obvious, the title, Visions of Eternity. Now, most players would agree that the title is a giant red arrow pointing to the eternal alchemy. But if you're not familiar with it, if you're not a Surin player, you skip all the quests. Well, first of all, thank you for watching my video. This must be a change of pace for you. But also, let's talk about it. So what is it? Let's get it verbatim from the wiki. For in the wiki we trust. So the eternal alchemy is the ideology of the Asura. Not a religion, it's an ideology. It is the teaching that all things, regardless of how small and insignificant or grand and important, are part of some great cosmic mechanism. It encompasses not just the materiality of what exists, but also the significance of the interconnections between things, their ultimate fates, and as such, the meaning of the lives of all the people, as well as the lives of each person. So the Eternal Alchemy is kind of the standard model for the Guild Wars universe. Again, standard model down below, which basically describes how the universe works by the interconnections of fundamental forces, but taken to the next level. So we're not just talking about the charting the course of quarks and leptons and so on, but how the eddies of fundamental magic shape the course of fate, shape the lives of all who inhabit this cosmos. We get a glimpse of the Eternal Alchemy in Olmed's machine. We see it represented in the All, the Antikytherian being a symbolic representation of one aspect of the Eternal Alchemy. Personally, and this is a pure conjecture, this is completely my own headcanon, I think all the realms of the myths, of which Tyria is just one, are connected via the fundamental magics, the elder dragons representing the different fields of magic, how they interact and combine, giving rise to different realms, different realities. But that's kind of my thoughts. I like my world building to be neat and concise. Your mileage may vary. You may prefer the chaos version of reality. But what does this mean for the story? Honestly, it's a hard one. But perhaps tapping into the power under Castora gives rise to the first Asuran god. We've had human gods. They're just receptacles for the power of the cosmos. I'm sure an Asuran could do it. I'm sure that they think that they could do it. Tiny little megalomaniacs. This cosmic magic could allow this newly sminted small g god deity the ability to connect to the Eternal Alchemy, giving them maybe glint-like, pale tree-like foresight. It could be fun to slot another god. I mean, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? But, and this is possibly more likely, maybe the Visions of Eternity title alludes to the simple desire by the Asurans in the Inquest to live forever, sempre vide, always alive. I guess what I really want is for Visions of Eternity to be a character-driven, grown-up narrative exploring interesting topics in beautiful locations. If we could find some hope for the Seer race too, that would be a bonus. Because I think that we could all use a little bit of hope at this moment in history. Let me know what you're hoping for from Visions of Eternity below, other than blissful respite from the real world and a chance to, recharge your batteries. I will be live streaming my playthrough of the expansion over on Twitch TV at the Krytan Herald, and I hope that you'll pop in and you'll say hello. I'd really appreciate that. Links below. Much love to all my wonderful supporters over on Patreon and Subscribestar who keep the lights on here. I have not done a lot with my Patreon and Subscribestar, not a lot at all. I have been recovering and I'm just getting my wind back after a long illness, so it is a neglected place that I need to work on this year, going into next year. And of course, before I go, I want to say many thanks to ArenaNet2 and their partner program, of whom I am a proud affiliate. If you're planning on purchasing the expansion, Visions of Eternity, or any of the expansions, I would be very grateful if you consider using the links below. It costs you not a penny more to use them, but really helps me out on the channel. And also there's the free-to-play version if you just want to dive in and try the game for free. I think it is an amazing game. But sadly, we have come to the very end. So until we meet again, hopefully tomorrow, please stay safe, stay awesome, and thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.